Next session, so we've spoken about artificial intelligence, we've spoken about geospatial technology, we've spoken about tips how you need to start up, we've spoken about the automobile sector. The one sector that we haven't spoken about is the F&B space, and that's exactly what we're going to try and cover over the next 30 minutes. We're going to speak about what are the kind of tips that you need to keep in mind while you want to build a brand, while you want to build a billion-dollar F&B company. What are the kind of opportunities that we are seeing in the restaurant space, dark kitchens, and most importantly, the Alco Bev brands as well. Let me invite, we have a very stellar panel lined up for you. We have Tarun Khanna, Partner CX Partners, Anand Virmani, co-founder Now Spirits and Beverages, Meenakshi Singh, CEO, co-founder at Sidecar, and let me also invite my very dear friend and chair of this session, Ashish Kapoor, award-winning hotelier, restaurateur, and water sustainability philanthropist. I also have a small disclaimer for the audience. Ashish has said that if you all are extremely interactive, drinks on him.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I think drinks are definitely around the corner, whether here or at our bars. I think it'll be a very interesting session because we've heard automobiles, we've heard technology, but in our country we know it's roti kapda makan. And this session is definitely going to talk about one of them, which is roti. Before I quickly jump into the panelists, I want to share with you something. You know, a private equity guy asked me very early on in the 2000s, how big is the food business in India? And I said, I don't really know the dollar value, but 300 million middle class, 3 meals a day. If you're Punjabi like me, 5 meals a day. So that's a billion meals a day. You take a billion meals a day and you multiply that by $1, $2, $10, $100, it doesn't really matter. Because you're talking about a billion meals a day as an opportunity. And we have panelists over here who've not only built great brands, but also invested in those great brands. So it should be a very interesting session. Anand, we'll start with you. I'll just, give everyone a quick introduction. So for everyone's, people talk about inspiration. Anand's created Ginspiration because he's created a fabulous brand that India is very proud of. 2 brands, in fact. Hapusha in the finer gin segment and Greater Than, both gin brands out of India, hugely popular with both consumers and bars. And this is all, I think, a 5-year story? 7-year story. So we'd love to hear from you on how that story started, what the challenges have been, and how do you see the market, how do you see the growth, and where do you see it from here? Because 10% of the sales are also international. So yours is India's first truly MNC corporation in the alcohol business.
I'm not going to claim anything, but thanks, Ashish. I think that's better scripted than what they're going to hear now. So we started Greater Than and Hapusha, and as I was sharing with you guys before as well, I don't think there was an intent really to go in and start India's first craft gin. The idea really was I got laid off. So not really a great space to start, and that, just when you think everything's crumbling around you, there was a friend who came in and said, listen, do you want to help me start a wine bar? I said, yeah, that's wine is actually what I've been most interested in, so yeah, would love to. Got into the wine space, this place called Perch, which we started in Khan Market and later in Vasant Vihar, and realized actually people were really interested in gin, and I think looking around, we saw that all of, the Indian spirit space was dominated by the large players, whether it be multinationals coming in from other parts of the world like Diageo, Pernod Ricard, Bacardi, etc., or Indian allied blenders, your Globus, etc., massive players. No one existed that was small. That small craft spirit story just did not exist. And around the world, that's really what was catching fire. That's what was exciting, was people asking for non-commercial. They wanted the craft story. They wanted the local story. They wanted to know about the founder, the process and everything. And that just did not exist. When we started looking into it, we realized there was a reason it didn't exist, and the reason was everything in India was geared towards the large. Everything was, I mean, make it large, right? I mean, everything was geared towards massive scale. If I had to start a space in Gurgaon, for example, distilling, the prerequisite was I needed to already have another distillery somewhere else in the country selling 1 million cases, which is like, okay, so how does an entrepreneur start, right? And this entire platform is about entrepreneurship. So we went basically knocking door to door. I was really convinced that there was a space here, and I guess I was convinced because we'd seen consumer demand on ground, actually speaking to consumers walking in through our door saying, hey, can I have a gin and tonic? Yeah, but we don't have anything interesting to serve you. We've got Blue Ribbon, which is, sure, Indian made, but mass produced, local, cheap quality. The next best thing we have is 1,000 rupees more, which is a Gordon's or a Tanqueray or a Beefeater, which is, or a Bombay Sapphire, which in India was considered premium because of the taxes that we were paying on that. But anywhere else in the world, it's generic, right? It is the Blue Ribbon of anywhere else in the world. If someone is from that company, I'm going to get shot. But effectively, we went around knocking on doors saying, listen, can we distill with you? Can we produce under your license? And initially they would say, yeah, sure. How many cases are you looking to do? And I'd think about it and I'd say, okay, maybe 7,000 cases. Oh, okay, no problem. 7,000 a day. No, 7,000 a year. And promptly shown the door, sorry, I have another meeting to run to, and this, that, the other. So that happened everywhere. And finally, someone humored us. And I think that's the best way I can put it. They humored us to say, okay, yeah, sure, you can take that corner of my facility and just don't bother us. Just do your thing. And we will charge you X amount, which they thought was a lot because obviously they were making Old Monk and they were making a lot of other brands. And we'll charge you X amount. I was like, yeah, that's great. That fits in my budget, no problem. And they're like, we'll charge you that till 7,000 cases. And once you hit 7,000 cases, which they thought was never going to happen, and honestly, I also, 90% of me thought was never going to happen, we'll drop it down to 20% of that. Fast forward to today, 7 years from then, we are at 100,000 cases a year, not a month, not a day. The industry has grown. When we started gin, premium gin category in India was 10,000 cases, right? It was, gin as a whole was 1%, and it still continues to be 1% of the entire spirits market, but 10,000 cases in 2017. As of last year, it was 320,000 cases. So it's absolutely grown, leaps and bounds. Obviously, the export space is great for us as well. But yeah, good story. There's definitely scope for craft in India, in definitely the drink side, the craft spirit side, and these guys, and have been doing absolutely great work of actually promoting that, to the end consumer. I realize how.
Thank you. Congratulations on such a great story, great brand. Moving on to Meenakshi. Meenakshi, I think, is the true antithesis to this session, which talks about building a billion-dollar business in the food space, because we very often forget in our quest for scale and building those billion-dollar businesses that pride is a very important part to that equation. And it's far better always to run a business with pride, which is profitable, rather than something that is just big and something that doesn't necessarily make money. She runs one of the bars, 2 bars, in fact, in the city that have been repeatedly awarded the world's 50 best bars award. So a big round of applause for her. This is just for everyone who wants to know this. We have Michelin star restaurants overseas. 50 best bars is the equivalent in the bar space. So to win that repeatedly year after year out of India is hats off. And she believes in building for quality, building with pride, and making sure that the brands she builds are iconic and they make money. So I'd love to understand from you, Meenakshi, where you see everyone in India just talking about scale, growing, and opening. What is your view on building these iconic brands, and where do you see the consumer in terms of seeking craft experiences from these places?
Oh, thanks. Thank you for this amazing introduction, Ashish. You are like my favorite PR guy as well. Um, the stories. I think we are in a wonderful room full of passionate people, and I think that's where it started for us as well. We believed passionately in F&B. Back in the day, I like to say it back in the day because this is still 2011 and 12 we're talking. That time when we would typically go to a bar, to a restaurant, very few were really run and owned by people who were skillfully doing it as a business. So they were like most of the time were investor based, backed, and they had they had employed chefs and bartenders, but there was no pride in that space. And I think we could feel that. Internationally, they were always, and the New York scene was buzzing at that time. London was picking up. A lot of really cool speakeasies were doing really well at that time. In fact, right now, just to put in context for everybody as well, this is also called the third golden age of cocktails in the world. Yeah, so India is catching up still, I feel. But it started in early 2000s when the PDTs, Milk and Honeys, Artisan, a lot of these bars really set the benchmark, yeah. And we kind of, I think, realized it that, we need to do something like that. Of course, we didn't have the money. We were completely bootstrapped. We did it all on our own. We did have an investor, hence we were called Thirsty Three, and funnily he backed out. And then we were two, right? And we're still called Thirsty Three, and we just love the name, and I think we were just like, it's too late in the day, it's already, I mean, who'll spend more money doing this? So we're still Thirsty Three with two partners, and we continued doing this. We were both very invested as business partners, beverage marketing experts, and we are also originally a bartender's bar. There were no bars that time that were actually run and owned by bartenders. So the story is really fun because we were ourselves bartending, we were ourselves serving, and I think that helped change the landscape and the narrative and the story, where consumers were like, okay, great, this is just like a bar that I would walk into London and actually speak to a bartender, and they know what they're talking about, and they know what they're making, and how to serve it. They actually have an idea what Negroni is, and and etc., etc. So that's how it started, and I think it took us a while to spread the word around. First 1 year was a massive struggle. We've seen zero sale days. We've seen days people come in and leave because there's no DJ, or lots of days like that as well. And I think that truly makes us truly the entrepreneurs we are, is because we've seen those lows actually to appreciate the highs. And I think every guest that now comes in, to me, they are like, oh my God, like this is a very special person because they decided to today come to my bar instead of the 10,000 other places they could have gone to. And they did earlier in the day. And so it's a fun story, lots of struggles, like I said, but I think the word spread. I think our hard work showed, and it reaped us the rewards, and we wanted to grow. But we always wanted to also grow based on the fact that whatever me and my co-founder would do would always be more quality first, more conversation first. I think we like changing the landscape and the environment much more than the profit sometimes, and we laugh about that. But thankfully, we are profitable. We are doing year on year. We are growing, and this is the first bar that we started in 2011. Today, we are sitting on the highest sale ever. So monthly, we can see what the traction is and how we are growing. The second story is, of course, is the success of Sidecar. That was our second bar that we started. That was 2018. By then, we had actually a real investor who didn't run away. So we went all out. We spent good money, created I think a beautiful bar. We spent a lot of money in a good ice machine. We could afford good staff, all of that. And yeah, I mean, as the story unfolded, we got noticed. And I think it was also at the right time, at the right place, in the right location. It was in South Delhi. It was, it got us the right sort of almost eyes and eyeballs. And we got some great support from the industry as well. Of course, I have to share that Greater Than was our first takeover. It actually launched in Delhi at our bar, and the license had just come. So we literally had maybe 15, 20 people come to that event, but it was fun. We had a great time, and it was all because the bar was actually not operational before that. So actually, Greater Than was the first gin that we ever served as well. And we've taken a lot of pride in supporting and taking the India story forward as well for Rica brands and the people and the talent and the art. So our menus constantly talk about the regionality, the sustainability part of it. We don't use a lot of exotic ingredients in our food and drinks as well. We take a lot of pride in that because it matters that, your lime comes from we have really good limes in India. You don't have to get, the yuzu limes from Japan. And I think that realization is happening from the consumer end as well. They actually appreciate the fact that, this is farm grown and this is something that comes from the neighborhood. And we got international accolades, I think, because the story was honest and the story was true, also heartfelt. And as a business, of course, we are right now on a complete growth spectrum where we are looking at we are opening a next outlet in 2 months, and then some months down the line in Pune, and then hopefully soon in another city as well. Yes, so it's exciting times.
And one of the perks of running 50 best bars in the world is that she's also the regular jury of the World Cocktail Championships. So if you ever want nice cocktails, head to her bar because there's a jury of the world's best cocktails right here. So great story. Congratulations. Tarun, moving on to you, all great businesses, all great visions require money, and you have been an early backer in the food space. You have built businesses both at the production end with Cremica. You've looked at food services, scaled food services. I think it'll be very interesting for the audience, entrepreneurs to know what has been your experience. Where do you see India in the race of building a billion-dollar business? What have been some mistakes along the way that founders have made? So please.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Ashish, for having me on the panel. So I run a small private equity fund. It's growth oriented. We also do buyouts. Consumer is a big sector for us. I think a third of our investments are in the consumer space. We have, I don't know for what reason, we have the last 4 consumer deals we've done have all been in the F&B space. I think it's got something to do with what Ashish said, that everybody's got to eat 3 meals a day. So some of the investments that we've made are, we've invested in 3 restaurants. The first one was Barbecue Nation. I guess everybody's heard about them. And then in 2015, along with Samara and Goldman, we bought out 7 different franchisees of Yum in South India, Central India, and Sri Lanka. Devyani Foods, promoted by Ravi Jaipuria, continues to be the largest in North India, and then we were the second. For synergy reasons, we bought out about 250 odd restaurants. And the third one, more recently, about 4 years ago, we invested in a biryani chain. Biryani is about 40% of the revenue, but it is known by the hero product called Thalapakatti, based out of Tamil Nadu. They've now grown into Kerala, Karnataka, Sri Lanka, roughly about 95 odd restaurants. So we started doing this in 2011. We did a little bit of research, and in 2013 we made the first investment. And the model for a restaurant is very unique. It's very different from a distribution business, where you just need to add more distributors, add new products, and go and sell. Here, you need to have a compelling product. There's competition all around you. So the product differentiation has to be very clear. So Barbecue Nation at that time was doing all you can eat for $600. Anything you want, as much as whatever you want, 600 rupees, no questions asked. And at that time, that concept was really working. When we invested, it was about 20 restaurants. Now they're close to 250. So the unit economics is something that we really focus on. It's got to be a profitable business. It's got to be able to pay back your investment in 3 years, because in 3 or 4 years, the concept is going to get old. So you need to redo the restaurant interiors. So return on capital, your food cost, your rentals, your employee cost have to be something that you got to really monitor. You could achieve fair bit of success in South India because rentals are low, but when you grow in Bombay or in the north where the rentals are high, your unit economics starts to become a little shaky. Or if you add more stores in the same area, then due to cannibalization, your sales starts to drop. So in a 10-year investment period, we went through our, you know, our sinusoidal curve. But what we stuck to, our core, was value for money in across the board for an individual. That is something that Barbecue Nation got to known for. And that's how the brand grew, right? The next one that we invested in, Sapphire Foods, again, Pizza Hut KFC franchise. KFC, the only fried chicken brand in India, did fantastically well. I don't know how many of you have taken off from Bangalore airport. There is one restaurant there right in front of the gates. It does 12 lakhs a day. Daily sale is about 12. This is like 2 years ago. Must have gone up now. There used to be a Subway, KFC, Pizza Hut, and one other store. They've taken out all the four, and it's entirely KFC, two units for orders and 2 units for delivery. So that's how popular the brand is, right? So again, what is the niche there? Fried chicken, and that's what sells. So can we build $1 billion brand out of India? Surely, I think we have many of them, but they're very fragmented. India is, it's not, I mean, it is one country, but I think it's got 5 or 6 parts to it. So what sells in South India is not going to sell in North India. Haldiram is a fantastic franchise in North India. You will not find a single Haldiram store in South India. Similarly, there are lots of businesses, A to B, Sangeeta, etc., in South India, which you don't find, or maybe you'll find 1 or 2 in North India. So it is a very region-specific, very fragmented market where very specific taste preferences are there. Now, if you have to launch a new product, earlier people used to say do it in Bombay or do it somewhere else. Now it's become Bangalore. Bangalore is the most cosmopolitan, it's the youngest city. Gurgaon used to be, now it's Bangalore, in terms of launching a new product and understanding how product acceptance is going to be across the country. So I think scalability without diluting unit economics is what will get you to that 200th, 300th, 400th, or the 1,000th store, which will help you become a multi-billion-dollar brand. I think that's going to be key. Focus on unit economics, focus on scalability. The only way you can maintain your quality and stick to your true value is by maintaining your culture and assuring that your product differentiation is there. So Thalapakatti was created out of the Dindigul district in Tamil Nadu for a particular reason. Boneless mutton biryani made in desi ghee with the short grain rice. That is the nature of that business. Now, can it go to 100 stores or 500 stores? Time will tell, but you got to stick to that. Similar for KFC, similar for Barbecue Nation. So you got to understand why people come to you and focus on that and work around that. And that's how you create multi-billion-dollar brands. One of the things that I actually picked up, some of my friends from the US came and we took them around Karol Bagh and Old Delhi. And there are lots of places there, homegrown places which are over 100 years old, like Chaina Ram, Batura Chola Wala, and all those places. They have a board in every one of those their stores which says, "Hamari koi branch nahi hai." We are trying to build multi-billion-dollar businesses, and they're saying, "Hamari koi branch nahi hai." हमको नहीं बनानी branch, हमको नहीं बनाने multi-billion-dollar business. Because when we try and scale, there is a sweet shop called Evergreen in Green Park. I'm sure every Delhi person knows about it. So once I went and I got some 6-7 boxes. So I was talking to the owner's son. I said, "It's a great business. Why don't you have 3 or 4 more stores? People come from Gurgaon to buy this. You should open one." He said, "We tried, but then who is going to maintain the quality there? I don't want to go there. I don't have any brothers. My dad doesn't want to go there. Who's going to spend that time?" I said, "Yaar, franchise bana rahe ho. Spend the bloody 2 hours in driving. You're building the franchise. Think about it. It's a brand. It's an iconic brand." He said, "Nahi, humko nahi karna." We are very happy. So that mindset has to change. Okay, I guarantee you. So Haldiram's already, what, some 50, 60,000 crore brand, right? But they have grown. See what a Haldiram was 15 years ago and see what it is now. Those guys are better than Domino's and KFC. They wear gloves. Everything is automated. Everything is cookie cutter. So they have that mindset and they have grown. But we have to come out of that mindset and grow our individual brands. I think we can, there'll be at least $100 billion brands out of India, food brands. We have to eat, a lot of people. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. I think are we short on time? Okay, so I'm going to ask one quick question each, and then we'll open it up for the audience for questions. Starting with you, Anand. India is a dark market for alcohol, so you can't advertise, you can't really talk about alcohol. How big a challenge is that?
It's great. Done? Quick question? No. The reason it's great is because it kind of acts as a unifier. If it was not a dark market, Diageo, Bacardi, Pernod Ricard, they would have absolutely blown me out of the water by putting in ads everywhere, having billboards and everything. Because they're not able to do that, actually it works better for guy. I've been cut now.
Brilliant answer. So you found an opportunity in the tragedy of
Well,
Korea.
because their mentality is built on that and they're very good at that. So in India, they have to come and kind of rediscover themselves and recreate pathways to the customer. Whereas for us, that's great. We're already on ground. So we have better access, I feel, to the customer, and hence, it actually works out very well for us.
Brilliant. Meenakshi, what do you see as the top two trends that will be 5 minutes ahead of the curve in India for the coming year?
For the beverage.
For the beverage side, cocktail side, bar side, what do you see? What should everyone in the room hope to see you do within the year?
So a lot of Indian stories. I think a lot of things. We as liquor. I mean, I'm from the Alco Bev space. Liquor for the longest time has belonged to the West and some bit of it from the East. But India's liquor story is just growing, and we are seeing founders and we are seeing amazing things happening within the country. And I think that's gonna just grow. And since we are all in that ecosystem, we will all grow with it. And I think I can see that happening right now.
I just have a follow-on question on that. Do you see pride in the Indian consumer ordering homegrown brands today? Because 10 years back, you would always, look at IMFL as a, as a secondary product.
Yeah.
But do you see that at the bars, at the front end?
Absolutely. I mean, IMFL has always been used as is actually not a good word as well.
Yeah.
It's India-made foreign liquor. It's like saying that, KFC is actually an IMF. India-made foreign food. That's what KFC is, right? So, but the thing is that IMFL is, in that it has existed in that space, but now it's obviously changing. There's a lot of pride, a lot of interest. We saw that with very recently something happened, very, very unique happened in our Alco Bev space with this brand called Indri.
Called, sorry?
Indri, a whiskey brand and, a Scotch. The story was very unique and very interesting. Sorry, not Scotch, it's an Indian malt. And the story was very unique, and out of nowhere, it's blown up because there is a lot of interest in people wanting to know the Indian whiskey story. There's like, oh my God, from Godawan to Amrut to now you see there are 8 of them and more probably in the process of coming in, Indian single malt and Indian, blends, which are going to take over the market in that space. And now Scotches are struggling, in Japanese whiskeys are struggling, and it's a unique space to see. It's never happened before.
Fabulous.
I'll actually add
Sure.
to that to say that local, not even IMFL, local was a bad word, right? Not just in liquor. Local was thara. Local was, you assume it's good. If it's a local product, it's going to be cheap, it's going to fall apart. Whereas now people are striving for local. They're asking
It's a
for
whole
local.
hashtag.
What a great story, though. Tarun, final question for you. What are the top 2 mistakes that entrepreneurs should avoid while building this story of scale?
So the biggest mistake an entrepreneur can make is that of, and I keep saying this all the time, biting more than what you can chew. You will not die of hunger, but you will definitely die of indigestion. Let me explain. if you have money to open 5 restaurants, open 3. Because 1 out of those 3 will fail. And you will need the money of the other 2 to open the third. Right? If you have money, most entrepreneurs, I mean, they're entrepreneurs, right? I'm not an entrepreneur, I'm a clerk. I've been a clerk all my life, okay? I look at numbers, I'm a clerk. You guys, these guys are the entrepreneurs, I'm the clerk. So I can only give you clerical advice. I will only advise you on the downside. Upside, you guys know what to do. What most entrepreneurs do is if they have money for 5, they borrow money for another 5 and open 10, okay? If there is tailwind, all 10 will do great. And they'll say, boss, I can't do anything wrong. Then they borrow money for another 5 and open 5 more. Somewhere in the process, something breaks down and the whole thing just falls apart. That is indigestion, biting more than you can chew. Remain hungry. Don't bite more than you can chew. It will not happen in 3 or 5 years. You will build it in 30 years, 40 years. You guys are young. You have time on your side. No brand was built in 10 years. All these brands that we talk about were built in the 40s, 50s, and 60s in America. These are 60-year-old brands, okay? We, as a branded country, is only maybe 25 years old. There were no brands in India in the 90s, okay? The only brand that I grew up with, 2 brands, sorry, I'll take 2 minutes. It's important. 2 brands, Color Plus, in the late 90s, they used to make pants. They were very expensive. They were about 3,000 rupees a pant. I used to make 35,000 bucks a month, okay? So 10% of your monthly salary. Color Plus pants. On my birthday, my wife used to gift me one, and I used to buy one. 2 pants for every year. I used to wear them. Seriously, color. They're very expensive. I used to think it's a 1,000 crore brand. It was a 180 crore brand. Under-marketed. Satyapal, Sanjay Kapoor, great guy, dear friend, he was an ex-city banker. Raised money, tried to grow faster than what the brand could grow. Became a discounted brand. Right? That is indigestion. The other is hunger. Color Plus is still around. Satyapal has gone down the dumps. So this is something to keep in mind. Thank you.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. They'll be available for questions at the back. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you, Ashish, for moderating the session. Thank you to all our panelists. I'll request all of you to stay on stage. I apologize for not taking questions, but our guests will be around. They'll be happy to speak to you offline. Could we have a small token of appreciation for all our guests and a huge round of applause, please? We'd also like to thank our media partners, Brute, Outlook Business, Tice, and our creative agency partner, Garage Media. Could we have a guest for a photo opportunity, please?